You're being controlled. Your thoughts aren't yours. Click away, lose the truth. Your free will is an illusion. You think you're in control. But here's the truth, every choice you make, every belief you hold, every interaction you have, is shaped by forces you can't see. Governments know this. Corporations exploit it. Even your closest friends unknowingly reinforce it. In 2026, the average person consumes 4,000 data points before breakfast. And every single one is designed to steer you. Do you truly believe you're in control? The unseen architects are already inside your mind. You think you're in control. But your brain is running hidden scripts, written by evolution, culture, and algorithms. Let's expose them. First, the halo effect. One good trait, beauty, charm, a fancy job, blinds you to all the rest. Swipe right. You're already biased. But here's the twist, it works in reverse. The devil effect flips the script. One flaw. Suddenly, you're blind to everything else. Now, the bystander effect. The more people around, the less likely you'll help. Why? Diffusion of responsibility. Your brain assumes someone else will act. Then, priming. A word flashed for milliseconds. Suddenly, you walk slower. Your brain doesn't know it's being hacked. The spotlight effect. You think everyone notices your bad hair day. They don't. You're not the main character. Finally, Dunning-Kruger. The less you know, the more confident you are. The real experts. They doubt themselves. Each of these is just the surface. The deep mechanics are far more unsettling. What if I told you, every handshake, every glance, every silent promise you've ever made, is bound by contracts you never signed? These aren't legal documents. They're invisible threads, psychological obligations you agree to without knowing. Break them, and relationships unravel. Adhere to them, and you're controlled. Host lowers voice to a whisper, but here's the unsettling part, one of these contracts dictates your choices right now. And you never even knew it existed. You just heard about the contracts you never signed. But here's the first one, written in the language of your own mind. Your brain craves consistency. Like a scale in perfect balance. But when your beliefs and actions clash, that scale wobbles. And your mind? It hates that. In 1959, psychologist Leon Festinger infiltrated a doomsday cult. The world was supposed to end. Their leader had spoken. But when midnight came, nothing. Most people would leave, right? But no. The cult doubled down. They claimed their faith had saved the world. Think about that for a moment. They didn't abandon their beliefs, they strengthened them. Why? Because the alternative was unbearable. Festinger's experiment proved it. People paid $1 to lie about a boring task, later said they actually enjoyed it. But those paid $20. They admitted it was dull. The difference? The $1 group needed to justify their lie. Their brains rewrote reality to escape the discomfort. This isn't just about cults or experiments. It's about you. Ever held a grudge longer than you should? Ever ignored evidence that contradicted your politics, your relationships, your identity? That's the self-deception engine at work. And it's not just about lying to others. It's about lying to yourself. But here's where things take a dark turn. What happens when you're forced into an action you later rationalize? When the dissonance isn't just internal, it's weaponized. That's the question that should keep you up at night. Because the answer? It's already happening. You've heard about the contracts you never signed. But what about the times you're forced into an action you later rationalize? That's even darker. In 1961, Stanley Milgram proved something terrifying. People would obey authority, even if it meant hurting someone. But here's what they don't tell you. It wasn't the shock that broke them. It was the choice. Imagine being in that room. The experimenter tells you to continue. Your hand hovers over the button. You hear the screams from the other room. But you press it anyway. Why? Because they started small. A tiny shock. A harmless request. Then another. And another. This is the foot in the door technique. A psychological trap. You comply with something minor. Therefore, you rationalize the next step. And the next. Until you're doing things you never thought possible. The participants weren't monsters. They were just like you. On-screen text, you would comply. They believed they had no choice. But here's the truth, they did. They just couldn't see it. And if our minds are so easily swayed, what about the hidden triggers placed in our environment? You believe your thoughts are your own. Born from conscious intent. But what if I told you, they're not? Every day, your environment plants seeds in your mind. Seeds you don't even see. In 1996, researchers at New York University ran a simple experiment. They asked participants to unscramble sentences containing words like wrinkle, Florida, and bingo. Afterward, those participants walked to the elevator 13% slower. Why? Their brains had been primed. The word elderly activated associations with slowness, without them ever realizing it. But it gets worse. In the 1950s, a market researcher named James Vickery claimed he could boost concession sales by flashing "eat popcorn" and "drink Coca-Cola" for 1/3000th of a second during a movie. The public outcry was immediate. Congress held hearings. Subliminal advertising was banned. But here's the twist. Vickery later admitted he faked the data. Therefore, the panic died down. But the science didn't. In 2006, a study published in the Journal of Experimental Psychology proved that subliminal messages do work, if they align with your existing desires. Participants exposed to the Apple logo for just 17 milliseconds, too fast to consciously perceive, became 22% more creative in problem-solving tasks. Why? Apple's brand is associated with innovation. Their brains filled in the gaps. Host points off screen, did you notice that? The logo wasn't even on screen for a full second. But your brain did. Now, here's the second thing nobody talks about. Priming doesn't just affect behavior. It rewires your perception. In 2014, researchers at the University of Amsterdam found that exposing people to the concept of money made them 37% more likely to endorse free market policies. The same words, the same images, just arranged differently, can turn a liberal into a conservative. Or vice versa. And what if these influences aren't just in ads or political campaigns? What if they're in the air you breathe? The music you hear? The scents you can't even name? But here's where things take a dark turn. What if these whispers aren't random? What if they're rooted in something far deeper, something from your past? But what if these influences are rooted in something far deeper, something from your past? Think about it. Every decision you make, every fear you have, every craving for approval, what if they're not yours? Science says they might be echoes. Childhood trauma doesn't just fade. It rewires you. It carves pathways in your brain, maps of pain, maps of need. And here's the kicker, those maps don't disappear. They become your blueprint. But here's where it gets worse. Someone knows this. They study these maps. They exploit them. That fear of abandonment. That desperate need to belong. Those aren't weaknesses. They're levers. And they're being pulled. Some call this victimhood. We call it a blueprint. The question isn't if your past shapes you. It's who is using it against you. And what if I told you, you can rewire it? But first, you have to see the wires. You know the game now. The invisible strings. The quiet whispers that shape your choices. But here's the thing, knowledge isn't just power. It's a weapon. And today, you learn to wield it. Remember that open loop, if our past shapes our vulnerabilities, how do we rewire? Wait. It's simpler than you think. Let's start with the barrage. The constant pings, ads, asks, emotional triggers, all designed to bypass your critical mind. But here's the first tool, the pause. 3 seconds. That's all it takes. Before you react, before you click, buy, agree, or even feel, pause. In that silence, you create space. Space to ask, who benefits from this, but the pause is just the beginning. Therefore, we go deeper. Reverse engineering. Every request, every demand, ask why. Not once. Not twice. 3 times. Why do they need this? Why now? Why me? You'll be shocked how often the answer isn't about you. It's about them. Their agenda. Their fear. Their control. And now, the hardest part. Boundaries. Start small. Say no to a text. A coffee invite. A quick favor. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. Every no to them is a yes to you. To your time. Your energy. Your mind. But here's the payoff. These tools. They're your shield. Your lockpick. Your path through the maze. Disclaimer, this content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Understanding psychological tactics helps you protect yourself from manipulation. Now, you might think this is the end. The grand solution. But it's not. These are just individual tactics. So what's the real unified theory of control? The thing no one's talking about. That's next. You asked for the grand unified theory. Here it is. You're not a rational being. You're a rationalizing one. Your brain doesn't make choices, it justifies them. And every justification. It's a script. Written long before you were born. Think about it. Your past isn't just memories. It's a minefield. Every trauma, every lesson, every fleeting moment of joy, it's all priming you. Setting you up. For what? For the next trigger. The next nudge. The next invisible hand guiding your choices. And those unconscious contracts you're bound to? They're not random. They're built on predictable flaws. Flaws that don't just shape you, they define you. This isn't chaos. It's a system. A vast, intricate machine. And you? You're not the driver. You're the passenger. But here's the thing, this content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Because once you see the system, you can't unsee it. And that's when you start to fight back. But there's one final truth. The most disturbing of all. A truth about your deepest identity. Host, deep breath, intense eye contact with camera, and it changes everything. You thought you knew who you were. But here's the most disturbing truth of all. Your self isn't real. Not in the way you think. You're not a stable entity. You're a story. A constantly rewritten narrative. The stories you tell yourself. The stories others tell about you. That's all you are. Philosophers like Hume knew this centuries ago. Buddhists call it anatta, no self. And here's the kicker. This malleability. It makes you incredibly susceptible to influence. Both positive and dark. The you believe in. It's a construct. A magnificent illusion. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Understanding psychological tactics helps you protect yourself from manipulation. Host's voice drops to a whisper, but here's the thing. Voice rises with intensity, this changes everything. Because if you're just a story, who's writing it? New open loop. Next time, we expose the master puppeteers who exploit this illusion daily. You saw the illusion. But who pulls the strings? Next time, we expose the master puppeteers. They exploit this daily. And you won't believe who's in the room. Subscribe. Or stay in the dark. Your choice.